hearing. Ms. Higgins, please proceed.
Madam President, Your Honours, I'm now on the 7th document of the 11 that I will address you on. I will then move to the 7 other documents in the document containing the charges which the prosecution cites, and I will finally address you on the arguments that have been put by the prosecution in their opening and presentation. Mr. Kay will then address you on the defence evidence. Your Honours, the 7th document is EVD PT OTP 00134 and it's confidential. This is a PowerPoint presentation from a human rights organisation, let me put it that way. It's 80 pages and only one of those pages concerns Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, the prosecution stated that this document alleges. I'll go to the content in a moment. This document doesn't allege anything. It simply recites an allegation from an unknown source. And it's the following. At 5018 of the number I have cited, it alleges that the Mungiki was hired, funded and transported by Honourable Kabando Wakabando, Honourable Uhuru Kenyatta, Njenga Karume, Stanley Githunguri, Mwangi Kianjori and Amos Kimunya. Businessmen Chris Kirubi and Stanley Livondo were also mentioned. No author, no sources, no date, no evidence to support this information. 8th document, public, EVD PT OTP 00178. This is a report compiled by Michael E. Muragu under the banner of the Peace and Development Network Trust, entitled The Challenges of National Cohesion and Integration, Mungiki Menace in Central Kenya Region. This report, we know from its face, was compiled in July 2009, and the author refers at 0339 of the document to Uhuru Kenyatta denouncing the Mungiki after they were allegedly involved in a mass killing in Kariobangi slum, only, I quote, under intense public criticism, and that he was, I quote, forced to denounce them. This section referred to by the prosecution, again, no footnote, no source, not possible to know where the author obtained his information or to even begin to assess the reliability of that information and, more importantly, why he adopted the slant he did. More alarmingly, not one single page of this 32-page report has been footnoted. Neither, as one would expect, does the author ever refer or clearly state the methodology he adopted to write this report. No probative value whatsoever. Your Honours, the last 3 documents that I'm going to take you to, 9, 10 and 11, they all relate to the KNCHR report with which I know you're familiar. First of all, document 9 is the report itself. EVDPT OTP 00001, and I'm referring you to 0134 public. Let me make it clear. It's only paragraph 509 of this report that is Uhuru Kenyatta specific. It alleges, as you may already be familiar, that Uhuru Kenyatta was involved in fundraising meetings to plan and fund retaliatory violence. No named source, no particulars of date, no knowledge of whether it is first, second, third, or even more hearsay. In contradistinction to the nature of the prosecution's evidence, you will hear direct evidence from witnesses who attended meetings at the locations cited in paragraph 509. Here is perhaps a rather large word, but you will hear their voices from the statements that have been put before you, telling the truth about meetings that took place, first-hand accounts that give the truth and reality of those meetings. Document 10, the second document, which concerns the KNCHR report, EVD-PT OTP 00212 confidential, entitled Report on Post-Election Violence, a Journalist's Perspective. Your Honour, we submit that this is clearly the material which underlies the KNCHR report allegations about the fundraising meetings, heavily redacted, anonymous, from a journalist. No evidence that the individual attended any of the meetings, source unknown, dates unknown, cannot be relied upon, we say, to corroborate other redacted, anonymous information. Cannot be the subject of any scrutiny whatsoever. The last of the documents, very briefly, is EVD-PT OTP 00169, public. All this is, and it can be dealt with very briefly, is a report in something called Africa Confidential, which reports on the KNCHR report. It adds nothing more. Let me just pause for a moment before I bring you on to the 7 other documents to say this. The central foundational document, aside from the KNCHR report in this case, is the WACI report, Public EVD PT OTP 00004, and I take you to 0587. Here is the only mention of Uhuru Kenyatta, and it's positive. It's in relation to peace meetings convened by the DSIC on the 1st of February 2008 in Limuru town, attended by MPs, including Uhuru Kenyatta, which the WACI report determines, and I quote, may have pacified the situation. Of this you will hear more. Your Honours, let me now move very briefly to the 7 other documents in the document containing the charges, because I want Your Honours to know that this defence team has not only scrutinised over 6,000 pages of analysis table, as well as the prime sources of evidence itself. We have also scrutinised the amended document containing the charges to look and to try and assist you to see whether there are any other documents there which do not directly fall under Uhuru Kenyatta specific in the analysis tables. We confirm and submit to you that there is nothing to support the alleged individual criminal responsibility of this man. But let me be very clear about what these documents contain, as EVD numbers alone do not perhaps do justice to the reality of the evidence. First document, Your Honours, Oscar Foundation Report, Public, EVD-PT OTP 00003, entitled Ethnicity and a Failed Democracy, a Critical Surgery of the Pre- and Post-Election Violence in Kenya. We say that this document is in fact exculpatory. Let's look at it. 0346 of the EVD number I cited. The only reference to Uhuru Kenyatta states the following: as the situation evolved from being defensive to offensive, with people from offending communities being flashed from their houses in various parts of Central Province in retaliation of the ongoing eviction of ethnic Kikuyu in the North Rift, Western and Nyanza key community leaders, and Nyanza, key community leaders led by the former opposition chief and now Minister of Local Government in Kibaki's government, Uhuru Kenyatta, moved in to calm groups of Kikuyu youth who had assembled in parts of the Central Province neighbouring Nairobi with an intention of invading Nairobi. This is not evidence of individual criminal responsibility, but rather, we say, evidence of Uhuru Kenyatta trying to reason and calm down Kikuyu youth, which fits squarely with the defence evidence you will hear of the efforts he made to install peace during this devastating period of Kenya's modern history. The second document, and to be fair, I'll refer to it so that it's there, is of practically no value whatsoever other than to record a fact. It's EVD-PT-OTP 00098 and it's confidential. It's a Thika District Security and Intelligence Committee report for the period of the 21st of December 07 to the 22nd of January 08. And Your Honour, the only mention there of Uhuru Kenyatta is at 0353 that he emerged the winner for Gatundu South elections. Third document, public. EVD-PT-OTP 00192. It's an article entitled Kenyan Opposition Leaders Position Upheld. And I'm afraid, again, it's a document that comes from the internet. Again, the only reference here at 0483 is that despite challenges from Nicholas Biwott, a Kenyan court upheld Uhuru Kenyatta's position as leader of KANU, something we don't dispute. It's nothing more, nothing less. The fourth document, EVD-PT-OTP 00194. It's public, and it's perhaps rather surprisingly that this has found its way before the International Criminal Court. As Your Honours, it's a Wikipedia entry for Uhuru Kenyatta. Nothing of any relevance, probative value in this internet entry. Fifth document, EVD-PT-OTP 00245 at 0343, confidential. This is a transcript of an individual interviewed by the Office of the Prosecutor whose name hasn't been given to the defence. He states merely, and I ask you to look at this carefully, that Uhuru Kenyatta had called for fundraising in one of the Nairobi hotels, he says, to assist, I quote, Kikuyus. Now, there's no reference in that transcript to any such fundraising being for sinister aim. In fact, it's quite telling that the witness himself, in fact, wanted to know which project the money had gone to. Nothing of probative, relevant value here. The sixth document, EVD-PT-OTP 00281, public. This document is a political article from 2006, the 16th of July, about the race for the Nakuru town parliamentary seat and the declarations that the outcome of the by-election would be a reflection of the 2007 polls. Nothing here that goes to his alleged individual criminal responsibility. Final document, Your Honours, you might be pleased to hear. Document 7 is EVD-PT-OTP 00284, public. And I quote at 0312, This document is entitled Warlord Democracy, the Proliferation of Militias and Post-Election Violence in Kenya, 1999 to 2002. Article harks back to 2002, not relevant, we say, to the facts of 2008. Again, Mungiki saying they would support Mr. Saitoti and Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta. March 2002 rally, we've heard about that. Uhuru Kenyatta didn't attend. I've already addressed you on that. Recycling of the same irrelevant material. Now, my final observations concern and address the prosecution's opening and presentation. And I'd like to start with the fundamentals here. Let's address and go straight to the common plan and the essential contribution. As your honours know, these are requirements 1 and 2 of the mode of liability of indirect co-perpetration. Prosecution's presentation referred you to 3 essential meetings. 1, to get support from the Mungiki for the PNU presidential campaign on the 26th of November 2007, and 2 alleged planning meetings with the Mungiki on the 30th of December and the 3rd of January. We submit that this case stands or falls at this stage on those meetings. Without it, there is no organisational policy. There is no origin of crime. Let's deal firstly then briefly with the 26th of November meeting on the prosecution's own evidence. Prosecution tell you, to quote, the objective of this meeting was to discuss Mungiki support for the PNU's presidential campaign in exchange for Mungiki demands. Well, what evidence do they rely on? They rely on witness 4. I've already addressed you about the inherent evidential inconsistencies and to some extent the external evidence which we say destroys his particular account of a meeting in a tent at State House. You will hear more about the reality of this meeting. The youth leaders who were in attendance in a meeting room in State House to present the President with a youth charter, which they had been unable to do at the youth rally that had been held the day before. A meeting arranged only that day before to allow them to have the President hear their voice. A meeting not attended in any event by Uhuru Kenyatta. Prosecution also rely on witness 11, who refers to a meeting at State House which he did not personally attend. I've addressed you on witness 11. Additional corroboration, prosecution says, can be found in confidential EVD PT OTP 00013 at 0088. This is an NSIS report of the 1st of June 2007 to the 28th of February 2008. I want to just tell you what it says, Your Honours. The report merely refers to some Mungiki having resolved to campaign for the President through a group called OCA on the condition that they may be recruited into the military or the police. Put simply, there is no corroboration here for a meeting between Kibaki, Uhuru Kenyatta and others in a tent in State House grounds on the 26th of November. Crucially, when you look at it, the guidance contained in this NSIS report to the government is that the government should resist the sect's move as it amounted to blackmail. No other evidence in support of this meeting. Let's move to the second meeting, the meeting of the 30th of December, this critical meeting where Uhuru Kenyatta, you are told, is supposed to have proposed the policy to attack. We have unpicked what you have been told, and we've gone back to the sources. They are witnesses 11 and 12. Independently proved, we say, through independent counsel to be inherently unreliable individuals engaged in criminal conduct. Even the account given by witness 11 shows that he wasn't at the meeting he alleges, not clear about the precise date, nor the source provided in his redacted account. Furthermore, the account of the meeting by witness 11 is simply not corroborated by witness 12 or anyone else. In fact, we ask you to look at that because the account cited in the document containing the charges by witness 12 is redacted to such an extent that it says absolutely nothing. We urge you to have regard thereto. EVD PT OTP 00667 at 0427 to 0429. That's it, I'm afraid, for that meeting. So let's have a look at the 3rd of January meeting. Because here, when we've gone back to it again and unpicked it, at first blush there appears to be quite a lot. We've got witness 4, we've got witnesses 11 and 12, anonymous witness summary 1, anonymous witness summary 6, anonymous witness summary EVD PT OTP 00581, and anonymous summary EVD PT OTP 00341. So at first blush, Your Honours, you may be led to conclude that there are 7 sources of evidence to support this allegation. Fact is, when you go to those sources, as we have done, there is only one account which we say is toxically unreliable, and it comes from witness 4. Our arguments about witness 4, Your Honours, are not arguments of nicety made on the fringes of credibility, but rather these are arguments of great substance, which we ask you to examine with particular care. And for the purpose of entirety, having taken you through it all, I will conduct a whistle-stop tour of the other sources. Let's look at the sources I've quoted. Witness 12. Nothing from this witness about a meeting on the 3rd of January in the Members' Club. Witness 11, the same. Witness 1, anonymous summary, does not at any time refer to a meeting on the 3rd of January at the Nairobi Members' Club. Not corroborative. He alleges that some meetings took place between the Mungiki and the government. No place, no date, no detail. I have already addressed you in respect of this summary. Anonymous witness summary 6. Again, I've addressed you on this. Information from a source he doesn't name. Meetings between the government and Mungiki. Uhuru Kenyatta is supposed to be at the second one. No reference whatsoever to a meeting on the 3rd of January in Nairobi Members' Club. The last 2, very briefly. The witness summary that I cited, EVD PT OTP 00581. Again, nothing corroborative there. We say meaningless evidence with no substantiation, unfit to come before this court. Last one, anonymous witness summary EVD PT OTP 00341. Please look at this document. There is no corroboration for the specifics, which is must be there for Your Honours to consider. Nothing about Uhuru Kenyatta. I'd like briefly just to address you on the allegation of a meeting at Blue Springs Hotel on the 3rd of January, where it was alleged by the prosecution that Uhuru Kenyatta spoke about this meeting where logistics would be discussed and how things should be done in order to send our people to the Rift Valley. Everything would be planned at this meeting. Money would be allocated. I'm afraid, Your Honours, that Prosecution Witness 4 is the only person who speaks to this location and the allegation of a meeting. Even he admits he didn't even attend a meeting he said happened. The defence say the meeting is a fiction, never took place. But crucially for your purposes, there is no other corroborating source. What of the allegation of a meeting at Blue Post, a different hotel cited, in January of 2008, which the prosecution refers to as an implementation of the organisational policy meeting? Again, crucial. It's alleged here that George Thuo told members of the Mungiki that he'd been sent by Uhuru Kenyatta with some money so they can buy whatever they need to help our people, send people to Naivasha. It's even alleged that Uhuru Kenyatta put in an appearance at this meeting. The only source is Witness 11, who did not even attend a meeting he purports to say took place. You have heard my submissions on Witness 11. You will hear from the defence evidence that has been submitted to you. We ask you to take due regard to the details of the reality of meetings that we know took place on the 3rd of January, the 28th of January and the 26th of February at this hotel. Meetings to assist the displaced people. Meetings attended by senior members of the clergy, not by Uhuru Kenyatta in any event. What of the second element of the mode of liability requirement? Evidence of Uhuru Kenyatta's control over the Mungiki. Prosecution say there are several sources. Let us briefly examine them. Prosecution Witness 1. I've already addressed you on his evidence. There is nothing that speaks to control. Academic article by Professor Kagwanja. Already addressed you. Nothing that speaks to his control. Witnesses 11 and 12 rear their heads again. Nothing there that can ever be relied upon by this chamber. And Witness 10, already addressed you. Nothing when you look at that source that supports the prosecution's contention. Perhaps this is also worth a thought, that in order for this proposition of control over the Mungiki to have any validity, Uhuru Kenyatta must be in command of Minor Njenga. Well, if he was, he certainly did a bad job, as Minor Njenga was supporting the ODN, as you saw in the video played in the opening of the Mathara case by Mr. Khan. Let us not mess around with the term of effective control, which is reserved for the mastermind, whose power and authority cannot be blocked by anyone above or below. Paragraph 39 of the amended document containing the charges. There, the prosecution pleads that Minor Njenga was the leader, founder and patron. In the same paragraph, prosecution claims that Uhuru Kenyatta himself is alleged to be a Mungiki leader. However, we say it is notable that the Office of the Prosecutor has not pleaded that Kenyatta exercised either de facto or de jure control over Minor Njenga, or that Minor Njenga was a co-perpetrator. Fatal omissions, and made perhaps knowingly, as there's absolutely no evidence to support that contention. It is fascinating, and yet we say deeply troubling, that the prosecution never even interviewed Minor Njenga. We urge you to go to the sources cited in support of paragraph 39, footnote 77. None of these provide evidence that Uhuru Kenyatta was a leader of the Mungiki. Another area, alleged mobilization of Mungiki by Uhuru Kenyatta. The evidence simply isn't there, Your Honours. Reliance on witness 4, reliance on an NSIS report which is alleged to provide you with corroboration. Let's go to it. Confidential EVD-PT OTP 00013 at 0069 to 0070, paragraph 321. This document refers to Minor Njenga organising recruitment and oathing for the Mungiki to take part in the skirmishes. There's absolutely no mention of Uhuru Kenyatta in this report. Neither has the prosecution provided you with any evidence of a criminal link between him and Minor Njenga. Financial and logistical support to the Mungiki by Uhuru Kenyatta. We ask you to scrutinise the sources. No more than anonymous, unsupported, hearsay and/or unauthored. What about the evidence of the placing of the Mungiki under Uhuru Kenyatta's responsible command? Again, when you look at it, it comes to this. Witnesses 11 and 12. And an NSIS report from the 23rd of January, which doesn't even mention Uhuru Kenyatta. EVD-PT OTP 00013 at 0048. There has simply been no elucidation whatsoever of what the responsible command structure is supposed to be. To command is to exercise direct authority over, to have at one's disposal, to lead. No evidence. Finally, what of the prosecution's evidence that Uhuru Kenyatta was able to secure the execution of crimes agreed upon by almost automatic compliance of the physical perpetrators with the orders he gave? Your Honours know that that is also a requirement that must be made out. Well, the prosecution rely here on Uhuru Kenyatta being able to ensure compliance through the provision of sufficient funds to secure the support of other members of the common plan and to enable the recruitment of Mungiki. The only evidence cited in support is witness 11, which we say is incapable of reliance upon. Even if it was the case, which is entirely, wholeheartedly rejected by the defence, that Uhuru Kenyatta supplied money to the Mungiki, it defies logic that such evidence, only that evidence, constitutes evidence of automatic compliance. There is no evidence to support this requisite of indirect co-perpetratorship. What about, finally, the fundamental requirement of intent? The prosecution is correct on this one when it asserts that you will see Uhuru Kenyatta's intent through, I quote, his words and actions, and perhaps it's time to take a good, hard look. Thank you, Your Honours.
Thank you very much, Ms. Higgins. Now the floor is over to Mr. Kay.